We solve that for them. You've got to make it easy, you've got to make it cost effective, and you've got to make it fast. That's what people want. Cheaper, better, faster. How do you get in front of large claims before they become catastrophic? That's what I want to talk about today. In fact, it's probably one of the most common questions that I get from employers like you who maybe are self-funded, or you're nervous about becoming self-funded, or you just want to be able to provide better health care to your employees, make sure they get the proper outcome. I think there's 3 critical things that have to be solved to get that sort of outcome, and which will result in lower pricing of your insurance program. It'll provide your employees better benefits, and it'll lower their costs when they go to get health care at the same time. The first is going to be easy access and affordable access to advanced primary care and specialty care, making sure your employees are seeing the right providers and paying the right price for the healthcare services that they get. When we think about insurance, it's simply a function of what does healthcare cost, because the higher healthcare costs go, the more insurance pricing has to go up to pay for those claims. That's really all insurance is designed for, is to help pay for what we expect our claims to be. So if you're able to lower the cost of healthcare, you're able to lower the cost of insurance. And when you think about just your population of people, just use a round number of 100 employees. Of that 100, there's probably 2, 3, maybe even 5 people that are going to use the majority of healthcare dollars that are collected in that year. It's the high utilization. If you think about from a tail, low utilizers, the very end of that tail is where the majority of your claims dollars are spent. And it makes sense if you think about it. The vast majority of your people, either probably 50 to 60% of your population, is either not using healthcare services. They don't go to the doctor, they're not taking medications, or if they do, they're going in for a sick visit, preventative care, something basic, and maybe they're taking high blood pressure medication or a low-cost maintenance medication. They're not using a lot of the plan. But of your population, you're going to have somebody that gets cancer, they're taking a specialty medication for a chronic condition, they've got something big going on, but that's not the majority of your people. As you go through your renewal process over the last several years, you've probably seen, we've got this large catastrophic claim, the insurance company's raising your premiums to help offset that going forward. And that's what spurs this question of how do I reduce or get in front of those claims before they become catastrophic. So I mentioned access to primary and specialty care. You think about the time that's involved for your people to find a doctor, schedule with them, and are they even seeing the right provider? And which is the second point, make sure they're seeing the right providers. You think about a PPO network, just think about the insurance company that you're using today. The insurance companies, they trade on having these big networks. And so I'm going to draw this out for you and I'll share it with you. Just think about an XY axis. And really, when we buy healthcare in the United States, when we buy anything, really think about this, right? The more you pay, the better the product or better the service, right? That's why when you go into a really fancy steakhouse, you're getting top quality food ingredients, prime steak, and compare that if you were to walk into a McDonald's. The atmosphere is different, the quality of the food is different, and therefore if you pay more for a fancy steakhouse, you're going to get a better experience and a better quality product, right? Versus a McDonald's. It makes total sense. And it's like with anything that we buy. If you're going to buy a TV, you buy something super fancy, you figure you're going to pay more money and get better quality. You pay less money, you get lesser quality. But healthcare is the exact opposite. There's really, if you want to look at the way this is, I've drawn this out, you'll look at this XY axis. It's really just a scattergram of pricing and quality. And so what you can do is you can break this into 4 quadrants. And really what you want to find are the lower cost but highest quality providers, and that's where we want to steer our people to. We get better health outcomes, we have lower costs. And that's where it comes to that third point, which is paying the right price. Oftentimes, it's really just the stroke of dumb luck. We give your employees this ID card. Here's this big network. Go figure out who the best quality and the best price is, and most people don't do that. In fact, do you know how most people find a specialist when they need specialty care? Hey, Joe, I know you had a ACL surgery last year on your knee. Who'd you use? Oh, I used Dr. Johnson. Did you like him? Yeah, he was a good dude. That's how most people are picking doctors. Or they see a primary care doctor, and that doctor is forced, because most of the primary care physicians today, they're affiliated with a major hospital system. And what most people don't know is those primary care doctors, they're given a list of doctors by the hospital who's their employer. It's in their employment contract. They're told when somebody needs an orthopedic surgery, a knee surgery, or a shoulder surgery, or they need a cardiologist, you've got these few people to pick from. And that doctor may not like those doctors, may not think they're the best doctors, but by gosh, they're forced. And if they don't use those doctors, they don't refer to them, guess what? They get a call. Hey, Joe, we see you're not referring to the doctors we told you to. Why not? It's in your employment contract. That's an issue that we see happening. So we need to be able to have independence in our healthcare, and there's a way to do that, and I'll describe what that is here in just a second. But there's a way you can make your health plan operate this way so that we make sure that your employees are seeing the right doctors, paying the right price. I want to use a personal story to illustrate the importance of this, and I've talked about this in prior videos, but last year I was diagnosed with melanoma. It's kind of a scary time in my life, and I want to walk you through the frustration that you have experienced, and if you haven't, somebody in your family and certainly your employees experience this. And I think this is what the rub is with, we pay all this money for health insurance. You as an employer, you're paying a ton of money for health insurance to provide to your employees. And oftentimes they think, man, my insurance isn't good. You've probably heard that before, right? My insurance sucks. It doesn't pay for what I need it to, or when I need to use it, it's kind of it's a frustrating process to go through to use my insurance to pay for healthcare. So I want to highlight just kind of tell my personal story. Look, I'm in the business. I'm an insider to the industry. I have a concierge doctor. And even with that, check this out. So I have a couple of spots on my shoulder and my chest. My wife, she's a melanoma survivor. She looks at me one night and says, hey, I think those spots, those look kind of funny. You probably ought to get them checked out. And so I text my doctor, concierge doctor, hey, doc, I think I got a couple of spots that are, troublesome. Can you look at them? So she brings me in, she looks at them, and she's like, yep, you need to go see a dermatologist. So what do? I have an insurance program. I've got it set up well. I've got providers that I can go see with my network, and I call up a dermatologist. Guess what? 8 weeks to get in to be seen. All right, I mean, I guess that's the way the system works. The doctors are backed up, whatever. Okay, I go do that. I go see the dermatologist. He looks at me and he's like, nah, I'll watch them. Those aren't really an issue. Let's just see if they change over time. So I go home. My wife looks at me and as a melanoma survivor, and she says, dude, those look like an issue. You need to go get those checked out. Get a second opinion. So what do? I find another dermatologist. Another 6 weeks to get in to see that dermatologist for a second opinion. As soon as I walk into that office, I take my shirt off. He looks at me, he looks at it and he goes, oh, dude, that's a problem. We got to take those out. They're probably melanoma. I got to biopsy them first. So he takes a sample of them, sends them off to a lab, calls me back in 2 days. Yeah, those are melanoma. We got to take those out. Come back in 2 weeks. We'll get them out. So think about the timeline here. I identify with my primary care doctor that I've got an issue. It's 8 weeks to get into the first guy. He misdiagnoses me, which, talk about the quality of the providers. Just think about this real quick. You want to get in front of a large claim before it happens. It's making sure your people see the right providers. Had I not gotten a second opinion, I would be sitting here right now with an advanced form of melanoma because I wouldn't have sought out other care. I would have seen him again next year. What would that melanoma have done over the course of that year? It probably would have spread. I mean, you've got lymph nodes in this area. That was a big concern. And had I just taken what that first dermatologist told me at face value, I would have a different outcome. But because I got a second opinion, thank God I got a second opinion on that, I was able to get in front of that before it became an issue. Now, I'm going to tie all this together on what you as an employer should do. In fact, as an insider, what I'm going to be doing for my 200 employees here at Hotchkiss Insurance going forward to make sure this doesn't happen for somebody else, that we can get in front of a claim before it becomes an issue. It's access and the right specialists, world-renowned specialists, to see these things and diagnose them properly so we can get early intervention, because the earlier you get involved, the cheaper it is, the less expensive it is to treat it. the better outcome, health outcome your employees and your members are going to have, and the less expensive it's going to be for the member and less expensive for you as a plan, and your employees are going to have a better quality of life for this. So let's look at the timeline here. 8 weeks to get in to see the initial doc, 6 weeks to get the second opinion, and then 2 weeks to get the melanoma taken out. That's 16 weeks with skin cancer that I went through to get this taken care of, and thankfully I was able to get a second opinion. If you catch skin cancer, and you catch it early, it's really easy to treat. It's simply just cutting it out, and it's super inexpensive to treat. It was about $500 to see one dermatologist and have it removed. It would have been about $500. I paid for 2 dermatology visits. So all in, I'm on a high deductible plan. I paid about $750. But if you catch melanoma late, so stage 3, stage 4, you're probably talking about a several $100,000 claim on your hands for your company. Now, whether you're fully insured or you're self-funded, you're going to pay for that claim. If you're fully insured, the carrier is going to pay, this is with oncology, surgery, perhaps multiple surgeries, and cancer infusions, chemotherapy, and radiation. You're probably looking at $300,000 or $400,000 for that claim. When that claim pops up, this has probably happened to you with a fully insured renewal. Oh my gosh, we've got a large cancer claimant. The carrier's calling for a 20 or 30% increase in your premium. Why? To help pay for that claim. If you're self-funded, you're going to pick up a big chunk of that on the front end and then possibly deal with reinsurance considerations at your renewal. The trick is catching it early, treating it when it's a $700 claim versus a $400,000 claim on the back end. So the trick to that, aside from the cost, think about your employee. Not only is it financially devastating, your employee's probably worried about, am I going to live or die? And then they're going to have a lot of out-of-pocket costs to deal with it. It's just not good for anybody all around. So the way I'm addressing this now, and one of the things I'm going to be working with my clients to do, and I'm going to be doing with my own plan, is what's called advanced primary care with specialty care access. The way my course of care would look using this is going into a primary care office that's not affiliated with a hospital system. You've probably heard of direct primary care. These are doctors that work on a subscription basis. They don't take insurance. Typically the employer or the employer, there's a shared cost of it's minimal. Maybe it's $50 a month, but you get unlimited access to a physician that will spend as much time as they need. That's traditional primary care. They're there for sick visits. They're there to help optimize your health. They're there to make sure you're on the right medications. They provide individualized medicine versus just walking into a doctor's office who he may see 40 patients in a day in a traditional doctor's office. You're herded in and out like cattle, and you get 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes if you're lucky with that doctor, and you leave with a prescription or a referral to somebody. Direct primary care doesn't work that way. They're there to spend as much time as you need and provide individualized care. Your checkup visits, they may be 60 to 90 minutes. They're there to coach you throughout the year, make sure you're healthy, make sure you're happy. Why? Because their incentive now is to keep you happy, well, out of their office, gives them free time to see other patients. They typically have a lower caseload. They don't see 40 patients a day. They might see 4 or 5 patients. So think about the quality of life for that doctor. And guess what? If that doctor doesn't provide top-notch customer service and clinical care, you replace them with somebody else that can. Now that's kind of, you think about all these iterations. You open up an application on your phone and it's the 1.0 version. There's 2.0 version and 3.0. So advanced primary care is going to have a lot more specialty care tied to it. So my particular instance, if I was to walk into one of these clinics, the primary care physician is going to see me. I'm going to raise the concern of these spots on my shoulder. He's going to look at it and say, yeah, that's kind of an issue. We better get a world-renowned dermatologist who's focused on skin cancer to look at that. And what do? This isn't the device, but they'll have something called, it's a high-powered dermatoscope. I think that's the term for it. But essentially what they're going to do is they're going to take a high-resolution image of that, and while I'm in that office, they're going to send that on to a specialist to look at it. And they're going to evaluate that. By the way, I didn't know this, but most dermatologists, they're trained to diagnose skin cancer with pictures. So they're going to get multiple high-resolution images of that, and they're going to look at it and say, yeah, that's worrisome. We need to get that looked at. But this is where the real power is in building this into your health plan, because these physicians, they have access to your health plan. So likely we've got direct contracts, we've got bundled surgical care, we have high value providers that we already know who they are. Let's just say you don't have those. You've got a network. We'll go back to the carrier, right? That scattergram that I showed you. And just in your network, we're going to be able to figure out who are the highest value providers, the really good ones that have the right price. And they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to make that referral to not get me in 8 weeks. They're going to get me in that week, maybe tomorrow, maybe today, because it's a physician to physician transfer, and they're going to get it in and get it cut out. And it's going to be, instead of 16 weeks to get this taken care of, it's handled that week. And that's super powerful. If you think about the experience that your employee has, they're no longer having to figure out, who do I go to? Then I've got to schedule it. And then I've got to figure out all the rigmarole with the insurance on the back end. We solve that for them. You've got to make it easy. You've got to make it cost effective, and you've got to make it fast. That's what people want. Cheaper, better, faster. And if you can incorporate that as part of your health insurance plan, you get a real benefit that not only benefits your employees and the experience they have, because what is frustration? It's when expectation doesn't meet reality. When the two don't align, people are frustrated. They pay a lot of money for insurance. You pay a lot for it as well. And when it doesn't work the way they want to, or in the time frame, or the hassle factor of calling around trying to figure out, who do I get into, who can get me in the fastest, we remove all that on the front end. It's easy. Go here. They're going to take care of you. They'll refer you to the best doctor. And oftentimes you can tie incentives to it. A lot of our employers who are doing this, we do this in our own plan. If you see the high value providers, we can waive your cost oftentimes. So no deductible, no copay to go in and see these providers. And so it's a real value that you're adding for your employees. It's reducing the cost to your plan, and you're providing a better benefit to your employees at the same time. So I hope this tip was helpful for you. If you're interested what this might look like for you, feel free to send me a message. I'll drop a link with my link tree. I've got a playbook. So the Insider Playbook is the strategy that we're using with our clients to help them provide better benefits, lower costs. I've got a checklist there. If you're considering evaluating your current broker, or you want to get a second opinion, these are questions that you should be asking to figure out, is this a broker that's just going to go shop traditional insurance for me? Or is this somebody that really understands what's going on in the healthcare economy and can really help solve the root cause of my rising health insurance costs, whether it's with me or some other broker that you want to evaluate? It's a handy resource for you as well. I've got some case studies there to help illustrate the impact that this can have to your bottom line and for your employees. But until next time, use this tip to add more profitability to your bottom line and more money in your employees' paychecks. Take care.